And I think something that we're really good about is relationships. Like when people come in, call them by their first name, or hey, how are you doing? Did you like that brisket that you got last month? I think people appreciate that, especially after this weird year we've had. People were going back to the farm and realizing the farmer had this all along. So I think people have had their blinders taken off.
Hey, welcome to another episode. This is Andy Young, the Mountain Money Man. Welcome you to Dream Achievers. And I'm outside today. I've got an awesome view, and we're on the front porch with this. So I got Chapel Creek Farms. I've got Melody that's joining with us today, and then I've also got Jonny that's decided to you know what? He said, I'm not normally the face that runs the place, but I'll show up anyways and share a little bit of stories with that. So welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Well, I guess I'm welcome because I'm on the front porch here of the cow farm with that. So now, did you guys both grow up running cattle all the time here in the Bedford area?
Jonny grew up in Bedford County, and he can speak on that. I'm from the Eastern Shore, but I do have farming roots.
Okay.
I grew up here in Bedford County on a small cattle operation.
Gotcha. So it's grown a little bit since then that we'll cover here in a little bit.
I've branched off. My dad still runs a small cattle operation, and we've branched off on our own.
Gotcha. So Melody, for yourself, you came out to Bedford County at some point in time. Mm-hmm. What brought you from the Eastern Shore over this way? It's your fault.
Mm-hmm. He's my college sweetheart.
There we go.
Yeah, we went to Ferrum College in Franklin County, and so we've been together since 1999.
Congratulations. An earlier episode that I'll link to up here, kind of a similar circumstance, Dr. Samantha Jordan that's down in Monetta with 122 Chiropractic. You know, she was down in Florida going to college, and her college sweetheart, she said, listen, this can't go any further because, I don't know what's going to happen. Are you going to stay here or go home? And he said, well, I'm definitely going home to Franklin County. And she said, well, then I need to come up and see if I like it. And once she came up, she fell in love with it. And it was like, I'm not going, we're good. We'll do that after school. And now she runs a successful practice with that. So you guys, college sweethearts, grew up on the farm here, not too far away.
Mm-hmm.
Not too far away.
With that. And you said you had farming roots.
Correct. So
what were the farming roots that you experienced out on the Eastern Shore?
Well, my grandfather on my father's side, he had a chicken house that's big. Chicken houses are big on the Eastern Shore. And so he did that. He was also a milkman for a time. My dad did some spraying application for southern states. So the farm life was always around us. My mother's parents actually were chicken farmers at one point too. So I never worked in a chicken house, but it was always the appreciation of farm life or whatnot. And my family still lives on the property that my grandfather bought after World War II that it's now leased out for an area farmer to farm on. So it's just, farming's always been around me. It wouldn't make sense to live in a life that didn't have farming around it.
Well, it's amazing when you see properties like where we're sitting today, that this is an old homestead that sat here for quite a while. And I can remember growing up in southwestern Virginia and going out to visit where my grandparents grew up. Mm-hmm. And being able to see the foundation still. The house had burned down years past, right. But being able to see with that and appreciate, listen, this farm has been here for over 100 years, that somebody has worked this and done this, that you have an appreciation for all that goes into it, especially when you grow up helping in it like what your boys are right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they would be here, but they're at 4-H camp. We gave them the week off. But no, our boys we absolutely miss them this week. Clearly we miss them, but we're glad they're having a fun experience. But they are an integral part of what we do. The farm is named after them. Creek is our oldest and Chapel is our youngest, and they pitch in and help, and not with a begrudging attitude. In fact, their favorite thing to do is fencing, which I wouldn't think that would be a fun thing to do. But they get excited when Jonny says, we got fence work to do today. So with as many cows as we have, that's pretty regular thing that we have to do. But no, we're really fortunate to share this life with them, because it could be that they hate it or feel like it's obligatory or anything like that. But no, they just roll with it.
So, Jonny, how do you grow from being, that you said, hey, it was a smaller operation growing up, that your dad still runs today. How do you transition from that to Chapel Creek as it is today?
Most farms around here are small operations. It's all farm income that the families live off of. Whereas me and Melody decided we wanted to be sole farmers. That's our only income. And the only way to do that is to be a large operation. My boys are determined, at least the oldest one is determined to farm, which he's 14 years old. And by the time he's ready to be out in the workforce, we've got to be large enough to be able to take him in if that's what he wants to do. So we can't wait until he's 18 and say, hey, he wants to farm. And we're only farming enough for one family to make a living. So
We have to think
every
now.
year we keep growing and growing.
And so for those that maybe aren't as experienced with understanding what that means of growing the farms to be able to support more than one family, can you share a little bit more as far as what does that mean? Does that mean that you expand your footprint? Does it mean expand, with heads of cattle? How does that work?
We have to expand footprint and heads of cattle and be pretty smart on our operation.
So I grew up where my uncle, he would go out and tend cattle in the morning, and then he would have to go out and work a construction job during the day, then come home, work cattle in the evening, and then you rinse and repeat every day. There is no vacation. The cows don't know when you want to go to the beach. I
focus on making the cows work for me instead of me working for the cows. We focus on grazing 300 days out of the year versus grazing 150 to 180 days out of the year like most people does. It takes a lot more land mass to do it, but it lightens our workload. I don't focus on making hay. What hay I need, I can usually buy cheaper than I can make. I take all of our land and make it grazing land and graze cattle as long as I can.
And what I find is interesting, if you're familiar with going to the store, and you go into your local supermarket and you see the beef, right? You notice that there's beef, and then there's a small section where they say grass-fed, but it's not the same as what you all do. Your grass-fed and grass-finished is much different than what you find in the store. Can you explain what that means?
All beef you find in the store is grass-fed beef. All beef starts on grass, and most of it's finished on grain in the outcome, where we take and finish our beef on grass. They're not on no grain at all. Pretty much all beef is eating grass the first 12 months of their year, the lifespan, and then they're sent to a feedlot, and the last 5 to 8 months they're on a grain diet. We take that last 5 to 8 months, sometimes it might go up to 10 or 12 months by the time you get it finished. It takes a little more time on grass, and just keep grazing them on good lush grass to finish them out. And it gives you a lot better quality beef. Some people says it can't be done. I'll argue to differ with them.
And we have repeat customers, whether through beef shares or just coming through the storefront on the weekend and buying burgers, steaks, roast, or whatever. And they say that once they taste it, they're like, we don't want anything else in our freezer because it doesn't taste good. Like once you've had your beef, it kind of spoils your taste buds. So the fact that we have repeat customers that have discerning taste buds means a lot to us. So that's always validating.
So what were some of the initial challenges when you all decided, hey, we're going to give this a go and do full-time farming that's enough to support us as a family? There's no additional income. There's nothing else that we're living off of. When you first started up the operation, what were some of those that you went, oh, wow, I didn't think of this?
I don't know. I mean,
I ain't going to deny that we have not been broke at times, but everything always works out.
I will say the thing about us is we're really good about thinking outside the box, pivot. We can do that very well. Our gears are always spinning, and we're not just like, okay, we're just going to sell to the stockyard, or we're just going to do beef shares, or we're just going to sell cut meat. We try to make ourselves available in multiple areas, and then we also have the apples and the cider and the events at the barn, but we're always thinking like, how can we best reach the consumer? And so it's like once you get something, you're locked in, it may be a great idea for a couple weeks, and then it'll fizzle out a little bit, but you have to have that next good idea, which I think we complement each other. Like I can
couldn't
put
do her job for marketing and selling, and she couldn't do
Yep,
my
exactly
job
what I
for
was going to
raising
say.
beef.
There's
Yeah.
no way. We need each other, and the fact that he has an expertise in growing something that is worth marketing. Like, to be quite honest, like if it was junk, it wouldn't do any good for me to do any marketing. But so we complement each other. That he knows what he's doing. I'm doing something I don't know that I know what I'm doing, but something's working. So.
Well, I mean, when you look at it, that you've found ways to be able to get your name out there, that even though you're raising beef and that you're going out and that's kind of that's what you're hanging your hat on, you've got all of these other things that bring more attention to the farm.
Correct. And you have to do that. Like sometimes with our events,
We'll lose money.
well, it's not one of those things like, yes, it's a moneymaker. But what it is people come in, they'll taste the cider, or they'll pick up some hamburger, and then they'll come back just regular storefront hours and just buy whatever we have available during storefront hours. And then they become a regular customer. And I think something that we're really good about is relationships. Like when people come in, we call them by their first name, or hey, how are you doing? Did you like that brisket that you got last month? Or just things like that. People not being a number. So we try really hard to have hospitality up on the menu board at all times too. And I think people appreciate that, especially after this weird year we've had where box stores disappointed people, the farmers, not just us. There was great places that people were going back to the farm and realizing the farmer had this all along. So I think people have had their blinders taken off and realize that the local farm is a good place to do business. And I think people are really coming back to hometown shopping.
Well, I know we started off last year at the beginning of the pandemic. We were still living down in Orlando, Florida. We hadn't moved back. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of times when we would go to the store where it would say, I'm sorry, you can have one package of meat, maybe two.
And there was no shortage.
And when you looked at that, I then would go volunteer in the food banks afterwards. And all the meat that couldn't be sold that was frozen at the grocery stores and now was being donated. And I had to ask the question. I said, if there was such a shortage, why is there such an abundance that's being frozen and then now given out on the back end? Like, this is perfectly good stuff that could have been sold, but I would have bought it, but I couldn't.
And that's one thing.
It's another way for big packers to make money. They set limitations. It drove cattle prices down. Mm-hmm. And that's what started us mainly on selling the shares and stuff like we do, is because cattle prices dropped down to nothing. I mean, if I would have sent what load I was planning on sending out last March, I would have took a loss on the whole load.
Yeah.
And we kept them back, which it's paid off now.
And that's not a short-term investment for you with cattle. That's something you've put blood, sweat, and tears in for a couple years at that point.
I mean, it's just a handful of few packers that control the meat market in the United States, pretty much the world. And if they can make it look like there's a shortage on meat, it drives their store prices up, but drives our live animals' prices down, which means they're making maximum profit off of it. And they're still making maximum profit now.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing about shopping from a small operation. We don't put limits on what you want to buy. If you want to come in, like we had somebody the other day and bought 10 packs of T-bones. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can do it. I'm not going to.
And our prices,
As long as your card goes through, you can buy it.
Well, actually, we're cash or check only. Yeah.
prices doesn't fluctuate like the market prices will. What we set our prices at is what we sell at, no matter what the market does for that day.
And I think
that
people
week.
like the consistency and the knowing and the stability of it. So yeah, it's going well, not in a bragging way, in like we're blessed way. Like things are going in the direction that they should be going.
Well, when you look at it and you say, this is something that we're being blessed in the sense that we are seeing what the vision was start to come true.
Right. When we named it Chapel Creek Farms, we knew that it was not going to there's a reason, there's an S on it.
Yeah.
Because we knew it was going to be more than one thing. And maybe at the time we didn't know everything, but our vision was we're going to have more than one operation going on.
So to speak to that point, right now we're on a property that originally was another family's farm, correct? So as
Correct.
we sit here right now.
Do you want to talk?
Um,
A gentleman I bought out
I
a
would
couple
rather
of
you do it.
years ago, his family owns this spot here. He's 75 now. He had nobody in his family that wanted to take over his farm. He came to us and asked us to buy him out. It's a great asset. He's got a world of knowledge too.
Yeah.
All
Because
his other-
he's walked and run the property for years and knows where
all his
every
other
little
runs
thing is.
plus the genetics of the. I
He
mean, we
built the
can't. I was going to say
genetics
we
of the
can't
herd
take
that
the
we're
credit.
using right now,
If it
so-
wasn't for his decades of getting the perfect genetics, we would still be working on that. So as it is, we're grateful that he's fine-tuned that.
Yeah.
And so, really.
And he focused a lot on making cattle graze year-round versus feeding them. So that's why he worked on genetics on cattle to raise cattle
that could handle that. Right?
exceed well on just grass and not be feeding them grain.
Okay.
Because not all cattle will grow on just a grass diet. They got to have a high-protein grain diet to put weight on.
Yeah. So when you buy those steaks that have that good marbling with it and all that fat, you know,
But,
it takes a lot of effort to make that happen and not be
Yes.
just a super
Yeah, it
lean
is.
cut.
It is not willy-nilly with just some grass. I mean, it's a thought-out certain type of grass and the amount of time. Like when one field is about done, he's already thinking. Like it's not just, oh, we're gonna need to do that. I mean, it is a thought-out pattern. To me, it's like a science.
Because you're rotating fields, you're having to go through and resow different blends depending upon what you want to be out there in that field. It's not just what grows wild.
Yeah, most of my wean stuff that we're finishing out for beef grazes annuals year-round, which means they have grass now, but I got to plan what they're going to be grazing this winter now.
Talk about
As
meal
soon-
prep.
As soon as this is taken off, I got to have somewhere for them to go.
Yeah.
And graze. Whereas all my older brood cows, we have established pastures that has fescue, clover, some summer annuals that comes up in there, or winter annuals, and they just stay on them pastures year-round.
So some of the relationships that have been important to both of you guys at this point with getting the farm up and running and having this be a fully operational venture, you know, who's been influential on that? It sounds like obviously your dad growing up around it and that your family as well, but anybody specifically that you can mention?
I mean, I'll continue to say that Richard, he is helping us along and giving us good feedback. And it's like we've kind of adopted each other, you know, it's not just this man, you know, it's really part of the family. So we're really blessed that he picked us and that we like working with each other. And so that's helpful. We're thankful for our boys. But yeah, I think, you know, I feel like our grandparents, I would say that, like, okay, I hope I don't cry, but we really, really, really love our grandparents. They're no longer with us. So if you ever come to the Cider Barn, be ready because we're going to chat you up about our grandparents. So the Cider Barn is built on property where his grandfather had the world's best garden. And then inside are things from my grandparents' farm and his grandparents. And so anytime we can put our two grandparents together, like for example, he made a lamp out of my grandfather's egg basket and his nanny's canning jar, like stuff like that, just to symbolize like, this is where we came from. We always say that they would be super proud of us, you know, and we always say they're looking down and going, look at that, look what they're doing. They're in heaven looking at us and being proud. We hope that's how it's going. And so I think just the foundation of coming from good families that worked hard and had farming was respected, I think that has been what has really cheered us on inside. We just want to make our folks proud, and we want our kids to be proud of us, and we just want to be good for the community, and I think that's just really what drives us. We're not lazy people, so we just keep going.
So I know that there's some different opportunities where people have that they can come out and view the farm, whether it's at the Cider Barn when there's stuff going on. You want to share some of those events that'll be coming up?
Sure. So, well, we have storefront hours, but if you on the weekends. But if you ever are looking for something a little bit more, our next event is October the 9th from 10 to 2. It's the Cider Barn Fall Fest. We'll have food truck. We'll have local vendors, which I will. Well, when this airs, they will be announced by then. And then we'll have hay rides. We'll have free cider samples. You could also, during that time, purchase apples from us, purchase cider, purchase beef. But it's just a real simple time in the country. It's always one of those events where we run out of cider, like we sell out because people are just so excited about the cider. And it's a free admission, free parking, and it's just a good time to be out in the country. And then after that, our next event will be in March, and that's our Cider Barn Craft Fair, which was amazing, like little venture that we happened upon. I didn't realize that crafts fairs were so popular, so we've been really blessed with that. So those are our two big events that we have going, and we may be doing another fall farm table on the farm dinner, because our first one in June was sold out in a week, and I had people on a waiting list that I had to tell them, no, I'm sorry, we don't have room. So we fed like 70 people on the farm.
It looked amazing.
It was like, it was just humbling, like how beautiful it was. But I mean, we had people helping us out and pitching in, and so it wasn't just us, it was really just like everybody coming together and helping. And Neil did a great job with the food. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. And we had a great band. So that was successful. So I feel like I will try to plan another one of those. But I wanted to see how the first one went.
So for anybody that's trying to keep up with you all and where you're going to be at, or special events that are going on, where can they keep up with Chapel Creek?
Well, we're pretty regular on Facebook under Chapel Creek Farms, and on Instagram, but we do have a website, and I'm sure you'll link that in here, and that'll give a good overview and follow up with what we've talked about. But I would say social media and our website are the best places to connect with us.
So I will share all of that information down below so that you'll be able to see it. So if you're watching on YouTube right now, it's going to be down below. If you're seeing this, that it's a link posted anywhere else, I'll share it in the comment section so that you can keep up with Chapel Creek Farms and know when they have events going on and where you can enjoy their stuff as well. So whether it's that you are saying, hey, I want to have fresh beef, and you want to have a beef share that you're purchasing, you're going in with somebody, you're doing a split, something with that. We used to always split half a cow with my uncle growing up, because that was a heck of a lot cheaper than going to the store.
Right.
See, that's something else. A lot of farmers require somebody to have somebody to go in with them.
And we don't.
We'll sell down to a quarter and match you in with the other people.
And we
Usually
do all
we
that
have
behind
enough
the
to
scenes
match
stuff.
in.
Yeah. So that's a nice thing to be able to have, so you can enjoy that fresh meat selection. You can have that put back in the freezer, so that way it's gonna last. It's gonna be there for you when you need it. When you got the barbecue going on, or you got the cookout and everybody's coming over, you can enjoy everything that you guys have. So I want to thank you guys for your time of being able to share. So if you want to enjoy more of this, be sure to like, share, subscribe so you never miss an episode. And until next time, this is Andy Young, the Mountain Money Man, saying I'll see you down the road.